This is a one-speaker meeting. Please welcome our speaker tonight, Hector.
Hello, everybody. My name is Hector, and I am an alcoholic.
Hi.
This meeting is alive, isn't it? Your secretary warned me about you. He said they're a wild bunch. You know, sometimes you speak at some meeting, it's like cardboard cutouts on the chairs. Thank you, Michelle, for asking me to speak. This is going to be a very short pitch, so I'm going to give you a very short drunkalogue, and I'm going to get into sobriety because everybody here has a PhD in drinking. So I was born in Argentina. My parents were very, very poor. They were violent. They dressed badly, and they smelled even worse. We had no bathroom. And they were very, very violent. But I didn't know I was an abused child until I came to AA, you know. Here they give you all kinds of problems, you know. My mother used to chain me to a sewing machine, you know. It was nothing personal, really, you know. She also chained my kid sister and the dog. She was an equal opportunity chainer, you know. So, and I grew up very, very, very scared of my parents. I detested them. I wanted to kill them. And but I didn't drink when I was a kid, you know, but since I was very, very young, since I was 8 years old, I knew I was coming here to live with you. You know, I had seen pictures of you, and I loved the pictures in the magazines. You had bathrooms. You had kitchens. You had toasters. Wow, a toaster. How magnificent is that, you know? And when I was 12 years old, I got out of the house because I got into sports, you know, come home, drop the bucks, and go to the gym. When I was 18 years old, I left the house. When I was 24 years old, I came to America. Oh, by the way, I came here legally, okay? So I don't get any funny ideas. If you don't like my pitch, you're going to call immigration. It's too late now. So, and I went to New York, and I worked in advertising, and I was always very, very, very isolated. You know, loneliness and isolation is one of the prerequisites to be an alcoholic. And the worst loneliness is not when you're alone, it's when you're surrounded by people and you cannot communicate with them. It's infinitely much more painful, you know. And I thought I was going to, you know, conquer the world, and I was going to be in New York and make so much money. And I fulfilled my American dream. I had this beautiful apartment in New York with gorgeous view. I had the clothes, I had the furniture. I had achieved the American dream. And I still felt like a piece of garbage. And I did not know why. You told me why when I came here. You told me I was looking for a material solution to a spiritual problem. And you told me nothing that I see with my eyes, nothing can fix my insides. Not the relationship, not the bank account, not the house, not the furniture, not the car. Those things are wonderful, but that doesn't solve my spiritual problem. And the solution is on this book, page 45. The main object of this book is to help you find the power greater than yourself that will solve your problem. I did not know that. And I always felt like a piece of garbage. And I had my first suicide attempt, and my second suicide attempt, and my third suicide attempt. And then I knew I was going to fix it. If all these things did not fix me, I'm going to become an actor. And I'm going to be the greatest actor in the world. I'm going to do Shakespeare in London better than Laurence Olivier. That's kind of difficult when you can't speak English. And I became an actor, and I did this commercial and that commercial. Oh, Hector, any idiot can do commercials. Even Joe Namath does commercials. You had to do theater, Hector. And I got into his play, we went to Broadway, and we won all the awards, including the Tony, which is the equivalent to the Oscar in the theater. And that did not fix it. And I began drinking. I drank and drank and drank, and I became an alcoholic rather quickly. And I was always crawling around my apartment asking God to kill me, crying. And I did not know why. And one day, I came to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I was sweaty. I had peed on myself. I sat there, and I had a moment of clarity. I realized what my problem was. My problem is New York. This is a very hostile, unfriendly, violent city. I had to move to a more caring, loving, nurturing place. So I moved to Hollywood. When I say that joke in Minnesota, nobody gets it. And, I'm a Latino actor, and I'm always playing bad guys. I'm killing people, molesting children, selling children, pimping women, I did a lot of guest starring roles in television, the 70s and the 80s, but always bad guys. I've been handcuffed on TV more times than the Menendez brothers, okay? So finally, I got this role. I'm going to play this heavy-duty macho bandito in the sequel to Butch Cassidy. It was called Wanted, the Sundance Woman, the sequel. And we went to Tucson to do this thing, and I'm playing this heavy-duty macho bandito, and I shot a Wrangler in the ass in the first take. In the second take, I shot my leg. And they had to rush me to the hospital. I had a hole about this big on my leg, on my right calf. And I had to be in the hospital, for a whole month because they had to remove the infection and do a skin graft. While I was in the hospital, my agent didn't send me flowers. And I'm very sensitive. Yes, I am. You don't send me flowers, I'll teach you a lesson. I'll kill myself, So a lady friend brought me about 40 pills, and I took the pills, and that was my best suicide attempt. I think it was my third or my fourth. And I was in coma for 3 days in an intensive care unit, and I died twice, and they had to revive me twice. When I came to, I had 15 tubes attached this way, that way, this way, this way. I was tied up to the gurney, and I had been dead for 3 days, and I had everything. Everything. I had enough money in the bank to live for a whole year without working. The most beautiful wardrobe you ever seen, a gorgeous apartment, a new Mercedes, and I was dead for 3 days. Wow. And I survived because I'm always in great physical shape, and I went home, and within 9 months I was doing the same thing, and my shrink said to me 30 years ago, I have over 30 years of sobriety, he said, you had to go to AA. You're an alcoholic. Are you sure, Mike? It's the Pope Catholic, Hector. Yes, you had to go. And I've been here since May 8, 1979, and I love AA. I call AA the mafia of love. Newcomers, once you come to a few meetings, you can't get out. We are everywhere. Especially when you're coming out of the 7-Eleven with a little brown bag in your hand at 1 o'clock in the morning. Somebody's going to say, hi! I haven't seen you at meeting. How are you? Newcomers, stay with us. Nobody wants you anyway. This is it. Either this or one flew off the cuckoo's nest. Now, stay with us, and let us love you until you really, really find out who you are. You're a child of God. You're fantastic. You're a masterpiece. And this is your spiritual family, and we're going to be with you for the rest of your life. You're most welcome here. And you know something? We know who you are. We really know. And we love you here. When I first started, I got sober in May 1979. I had a problem with God, And I'm just now the same things I did, 30 years ago. I go to meetings, I have a sponsor, I sponsor people. I pray, I meditate, and I go to about 3-4 meetings a week, and I take guys through the book, some girls too, on Monday nights. Okay? And I don't do that because I'm good or spiritual. I do that because I don't want to die from this disease. I had a problem with God because I come from a Catholic background. And my God was not a loving God. My God looked like Charlton Heston, and he behaved like Leona Hemsley, He did not like the little people. So I had to find a God that I could work with, and I read a great deal of spiritual literature, and I found this definition of God by Joel Goldsmith that says, regardless of how high my concept of God is, it is wrong, because still a concept. Eventually I have to lose all concepts and reach a consciousness that God is. And then leave the subject alone, because with the mind, I'm never going to understand what God is. And the big book says the same thing on page 46. Even though it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power which we call God. And then on 33 says we had to fearlessly face the proposition that God is everything or else he is nothing. What was our choice to be? How can I understand a spiritual entity that takes care of 6.5 billion at the same time? It is an impossibility. But you told me I have to seek God. I don't have to find God. And you told me instead of trying to define God, try to see God in everything and everybody. That's my task. And that's what I do. People said work the steps to achieve sobriety. Yes, the end result of working the steps is sobriety. But for me, just for me, not for you. The main purpose of the step is to develop a conscious contact with God. And if I do that, the obsession will be removed. It says so on page 32, the 12 and 12. It says, the fact was we really had not clean house so that the grace of God could enter us and remove the obsession. So that's what I have to do, is remove the obsession. Ask God to do that for me. I did not know that. And it took me 1.5 years to get a sponsor, because I know the minute he knows who I am, he's going to drop me, because I know who I am. I'm a piece of garbage. And you told me, no, Hector, you're a child of God. The first step says I have a problem, powerlessness. The second step says the solution is God. The third step, I had to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. What is my will? My thoughts. I did not know that. Somebody said many years ago, as a man thinketh in his mind, so is he. Thoughts are things. Think about it. Everything you're wearing, your jewelry, your glasses, your clothes, the chair you're sitting on, this building, it started with a thought. Thoughts are things. And the big book agrees with that. On page 23, it says, the main problem of the alcoholic centered in his mind rather than in his body. Whatever is in here is going to manifest outside, as within, as without. What is my life? I did not know. You taught me. Joe and Charlie taught me. I took, their seminars twice. My life is my actions, the sum total of my actions. I did not know that. But Emerson said, your actions speak so loud, I cannot hear what you're saying. That's why our book says action, action, and more action. It doesn't say thinking, thinking, and more thinking. And after I turned my will over to God, I had to do 4 and 5. 4 and 5 is a relationship with myself. I have to see all the blockages I have that prevent me to develop a relationship with God. Then I go home and do 6 and 7. And then I had to do 8 and 9. 8 and 9 is my relationship with the universe. All the people that I hurt when I was drinking. And then comes 10. It's a daily tool. Whenever we were wrong, we had to immediately apologize. And then comes 11, prayer and meditation. My friend Harvey says, prayer is when you talk to God. When you hear the voice of God talking back to you, it's called schizophrenia. We pray only for God's will and the power to carry that out. Why is that? Because I don't know it was good for me. I thought being on television was good for me, having a Mercedes, having an apartment, having nice clothes. And I got all that, and I ended up dead for 3 days. So obviously, I don't know it was good for me. I pray to God to be illuminated, to be guided, to be told by the consciousness of God. And then I go into meditation. I close my eyes and let go of the world of conditions and circumstances. That's not where I live. I live in here. And I keep remodeling my house. And one day I realized I don't live in my house. I don't live in the 3 bedrooms or 2 or 3 baths or whatever I have. No, I live here. And wherever I go, I take this with me. And this has already a very good decorator. His name is God. He can recycle this very well if I turn my life over to God. And I did not know that. And then comes 12, service. That's the ultimate. That here we give you a title after you work the first 11 steps. The title is Humble Servant. People in AA are people who serve, who do things. Because we all know what the book says, whenever everything else fails, doesn't say go out and buy another BMW, does it? When everything else fails, go and find somebody to love, to care for. Because the only healing love is the love I give you. It's wonderful that you love me, but it's infinitely much more important that I love you. And I did not know that. You taught me that. So that's the way I work the 12 steps. And it takes me about 4 months to take somebody through the steps. And it's a lot of writing and studying. But by the time I finish with that person, he or she is going to know what the steps are all about. I told you I hated my parents, right? I detested them. I was so ashamed of them, I would never be caught dead walking with them on the streets. They were illiterate. They had funny accents like I do now. They dressed badly. I was so ashamed of them. And the book says that resentment is #1 killer. And it doesn't exempt parents, doesn't it? Does it? And I had to do inventory. And I had to look at it, Say, well, yes, my mom, changed me a few times. That was wrong. That was wrong. But that was like 60 years ago. What is my part in that? Nothing. My part is the next 50 years. What do I do after she beat me up? Keep hating her and talking to everybody? Do you know what my mommy did when I was a kid? Or do I go to a shrink? Do I go to a priest? Do I go to a rabbi and really deal with it? Or work the steps? And something? She did a lot wrong. So did I in sobriety. And I had to make amends. And I had to forgive them, not for them, for me. Because if I don't forgive my parents, I will always have problems with authority figures. My coach, my boss, my sponsor, whatever it is, I will have problems. So I looked at it. Yes, she did some things wrong, but something? She was illiterate. But she got up every day at 6 o'clock in the morning. She put me through 12 years of school. When I was a little kid, we didn't have money for a Christmas tree. She took a broomstick, some wire, some green paper, and she made a Christmas tree. 4 branches, 5 branches, 6 branches. She went out with a quarter and bought 4 Christmas balls and a pointer. But guess what? I had my Christmas tree. And every day, every year, got a little bit bigger. When I was 12 years old, it is a fashion in Argentina, a custom to buy the boy a bicycle. She worked at 2 jobs, from 5 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night, every single day of the year. No welfare in Argentina. And still we were poor. So working at 2 jobs, she bought me the most beautiful bicycle in the entire neighborhood, imported from Italy. Even the rich kids don't have as nice a bicycle as mine. And I realized she was doing the best she could with the tools she had. My father beat her up, and sometimes she beat us up. You see, most of us didn't learn something at home, but we had the privilege, the luck to go to school, and the teachers taught us something. So what we did not learn in school, at home, we learned in school. Neither one of my parents went to school. So I sent her a ticket. And she had never been inside a plane, and she landed in L.A. And those days I had my apartment. When she walked into my apartment, she had a 12-feet-tall Christmas tree, real pine, decorated in her favorite colors, pink and red. And I told my mom how much I loved her. And I thanked her for sending me to school, for buying me the books, for buying me the clothes for the gym. And never, never I mentioned what she did wrong. We don't do that in AA. We take care of this side of the street. There is no but when we make an amend. But what I did was wrong, and I apologize. And that's it. And she came back 3 years later with my sister Olga, and they were, talking at the table and overheard this conversation. She said to my sister Olga, Olga, do you know what I wish for all the mothers in the world? And Olga said, what? That all of them could have a son like my Hector. And that relationship was healed. When she passed away, my heart was at peace. I had worked the steps. When I think about my mom, I smile. The poor, illiterate little woman from Italy did the best she could with the tools she had. With my father was a little different. I really, really disliked him. He was very violent. He would grab a knife or a gun and we'll run to the street. He's going to kill us. And my dream as a child was not to be president of Argentina, a doctor, or a movie star. My dream as a child was to kill my daddy. Hector, what are you going to do when you grow up? I'm going to kill my daddy. With a dull razor blade. So I hadn't heard from him in 14 years, and all of a sudden I get a letter, from Syria. He moved to Syria. He remarried, and in the letter said, how you doing, son? Haven't heard from you in such a long time. Of course he hadn't. I didn't know where he was. I just wrote it just to say hello, and also I need a favor. Can you send me some money? You bastard, you write to me after 14 years because you want money? And the letter continued. Oh, one more thing. My family here says to me, nobody talks to me from the other side of the ocean. I must have done something wrong. And if I did, I apologize. Ha! Did you do something wrong? And I began writing back. And I began listing everything he did wrong. And I was 4 pages. And I don't lie because now I'm in AA. So this is all true. And then I made a mistake. Newcomers never do this. I asked an old-timer what to do. Never do that. Again. And she said, Hector, would you rather be at peace or would you rather be right? I'd rather be right. I waited 50 years for this shit. But newcomers, they brainwash you here. And I sent the letter, and that was not enough. I went back to a shrink who sent me here 30 years ago. He says, Hector, you had to go to Syria and meet your daddy. You don't know your father. Are you crazy? Go to Syria? They're full of Syrians. They all look like my father. I don't want to see Syrians. But I landed in Damascus, 2 or 3 months later. And this giant that used to beat me up, that I was so afraid of, is this little old guy about this tall, bald-headed, wispy white hair, funny baggy pants running towards me, crying, sobbing. And he embraces me, starts kissing me all over, and I'm sobbing. And I'm asking myself, who is this man? I don't know this man. And people around us are sobbing. And then he takes me by the hand, like I'm a 5-year-old, and he takes me to his village. This very, 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 very poor village. His house is the only one that has a toilet in the bathroom. He told me his story. His father was about 16, 17. His mom was 15. They never went to school. They were illiterate. They had him, and he grew up in this little village like a little animal. Until he was 15 or 16 years old, he moved to Argentina and married my crazy mother. I was going to know how to be a caring, loving, nurturing father. He had no idea. But he loved me. He really, really loved me. I just did not love him. I don't want an illiterate peasant from Syria. I want Nelson Rockefeller or somebody like that for a father. No, 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 Hector, God said. This is your dad. This is the one you have to love. And he loved me so much that he made me dress in a three-piece suit in this very, very, very poor village. He sat me at the table in the dining room. He put steak in front of me, which is very, very expensive in Syria. And he invited all the villagers from the village to come and say hello to my son Hector from Argentina. Dozens and dozens of people came to say hello. That's how much he loved me. Even a blind beggar, dirty, filthy, without shoes, walked into the room, and he guided his hand to touch my face so that he too may know what Ibrahim's son looked like. That's how much he loved me. And I spent the whole week with him. I taped him, I photographed him, I talked to him, I wrote his history down. And after 8 days, I was at the airport to leave. And I knew I was not going to see him ever again. He was in his 80s. And I said, Daddy, I love you very, very much. And I'm so proud that you're my daddy. And he grabbed my face and kissed me all over and says, no, 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 son. I'm much more proud of you, what you've done with your life. I'm so proud of you. And you know, son, your visit to my little village is the most beautiful present anybody could have given me. No money in the world could make me happier. Now I can die in peace. We hugged and hugged. We sobbed and sobbed, and I left. And when I came back to America, my country, something very subtle had changed. You see, I always looked like a man. I accomplished like a man. I dressed like a man. I sounded like a man. But inside myself, I was always a child, a 12-year-old child. Because being like my father, being a man was being like my father. So I remained really undeveloped mentally and emotionally because I didn't want to be like him. And now when I think about my dad, I smile. He did the best he could with the tools he had. We are so lucky. We learned a new way of life here after all the colossal things that we did when we were drinking. We get a new chance. We're all walking miracles. He did not have that chance. And now I know what a real man is, or a woman. It has nothing to do with what we drive, how much money we make, how we dress. Those things are wonderful. I have a phenomenal life. But you know what's most important? A real man is somebody who is at peace with himself. Peace. Because when I am at peace, it means I have a conscious contact with God. And I can do what the book says, to be of maximum use to God and those about us. I remember the St. Francis prayer on the 12 and 12. He says, God, make me a channel of thy peace, that where there's hatred, I may bring love, that where there's darkness, I may bring light, and so on and so forth. But the best quality, the first quality, spiritual quality, is peace. Because when I'm at peace, I can be of use to you, I can hear you, and I can enjoy my life and be of service. And all of that, I learned it here. I remember somebody saying from the podium, I came here to stop drinking. And you beautiful, beautiful people taught me how to live. God bless you, and I love you.